In this lesson, we use a slightly different technique to create the geometry for the window in the door. So the door windows we're going to create just by using a simple spline. And this is going to be even simpler than some of the other techniques that we used. I'm going to go ahead and create an edge selection somewhere in the middle of this door. All right, and I'll go ahead and just select the loop. Under selection, I'll just select the entire loop. And let's go ahead and create a shape from selection. Say OK to that. And now let's go ahead and select this spline, and let's hit Control Q to isolate. And you can see that that loop went all the way around. So basically, we've got a loop that we don't really need. We just need the inner part. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a segment subobject. Go ahead and select the segment down at the bottom, and get rid of that. And there's a couple of other segments down here as well. And then we'll do the same thing over on the other side. Get rid of some of these segments here. And then at that point, let me get down, get that one. At that point, we can just select the spline and select the outer spline and go ahead and get rid of that. All right. So now that we have this, and I can go ahead and just center the pivot on that if I want to. Now that we have this spline, what we need to do is create a connection across the bottom. Okay, so we've got our editable spline here. I'm going to go ahead and go to Vertex and go down to, we want to go down into our geometry rollout. And right here you'll find something in its own little box, Refine. So I'm going to turn on Connect and choose to refine. I'm going to click on this point. Okay, I'm going to say Connect Only. And then I'll click on this point and say Connect Only. And then I'll right click to end that. You can see that that's now added a new segment here. Okay, and in fact it's a whole new spline. So what we need to do is connect this with this spline. So I'm going to choose Vertex. I'm going to drag across both of these. Okay, so you can see I've got a selection across both of those. Okay, and now we'll come under geometry here, and we want to go down to weld right down here. Okay, so let's go ahead and raise this just to be sure. Let's go ahead and weld those together. So now if I select this, it's a single point. Okay, make sure to get that, weld that together, and let's also weld this guy down here. Go ahead and weld that together. Alright, so now that we've got that welded together, so now it should be one spline. So there, if I select that, you can see it's one spline. So now we'll take this, and we want to add just some geometry inside here. So basically a big n-gon. So to do that, let me go ahead and exit isolation mode and zoom extents there. To do that, I'm just going to go ahead and right click on it and convert it to an editable poly. And you can see how that now adds that geometry. You could also add an extrude modifier, and that would actually add some thickness to that, but we don't really need that thickness right now. Now I want to pull it inside here just a little bit, so I can go ahead and add just a 2x2x2 FFD box there, and grab the control points, and I'll just grab these control points down here and just very gently move that in. Okay, so something like that. And keep in mind that if you want to have any sort of geometry flowing across here, you may have to do a little drawing. This is just a kind of creating a big n-gon that's, it's not going to be deformed or anything. Go ahead and collapse that. Just a little bit different way of working. If I want to kind of scale it up just a little, make sure it's penetrating into the door. Now, if you're going to have this window open, you're going to want to give it some thickness, and you probably want to make it a little bit differently, but this is just another way. You can see where we can add very quickly, just add that geometry between inside of any sort of closed spline that we have, and that's really useful. And you can create some really neat effects with that, and having some splines inset, and you have holes in there. For instance, if we wanted a hole right here, we could just add a spline that was a hole that was planar with that, and we could have a nice hole in there. So a lot of neat things you can do with splines. Okay. We'll go ahead and select this, and then we can give it our kind of our black window. You can see, and it works. This works better for things that are fairly flat and planar. All right. Okay, so Now that we've got that done, in the next lesson, let's go ahead and create the covers for the back window. So we're going to have a kind of a cover piece across here that has these sort of vents in it. So we'll go ahead and see if we can't build that in the next lesson. So we'll see you then.